Good morning, fifth grade. I hope you had a good long weekend. As you can tell, we're not having a Zoom class today because we're just going over a little more information about dictionaries. So if you have your book, go ahead and open up to page 123. And the title of our lesson is more about dictionaries. Just so you don't feel alone, you see my cat Oliver. He's here to help with studying because he's all about books. Anyway, last week we went over dictionaries and we said that there was a lot of information in a dictionary than just the meaning of the word. We had guide words at the top of the page that told us what words could be found on that page, and we said that all words in a dictionary were alphabetical. We said that um, in the definitions, it would tell you the pronunciation. It would tell you how the syllables were broken up. It would tell you what part of speech that word could be used as. And then it also gave you the etymology, which was the root of the word, what language that it came from. And so today we're going to go over the fact that in the dictionary, some words have more than just one meaning. And if I asked you to look up on the computer, which I'm not going to, but let's just talk about sometimes we don't know what the meaning of the word is. But if we look at the sentence and how the word is used in a sentence, we can kind of figure out what a definition of a word might be. So, for example, a word you don't use here very much in sentences might be the word mendacity. And if I asked you if you knew what that meant, you probably would be shaking your head no. In fact, I see Michael and Alex shaking their head no right now. But if I said the sentence, she has a reputation for mendacity, so I don't think we can trust her. What do you think now? What do you think about the word mendacity? If we, because it has the phrase, I don't think we can trust her, maybe that means that person is given to dishonesty or deceit, trickery. Um, and so while you may not know the actual definition of the word, once you see the context of the sentence, you figure out that the word you don't know probably has to do with lying, mendacity. So if you have time, why don't you go ahead and look up the word mendacity? The spelling is Mendacity, and just see if we're right. I think we are right. Um, Now, if you look at the yellow box at the top of your page, it says some words have more than one meaning. You can figure out the correct meaning through the context of the sentence. We blew into our recorders softly. Well, if you look at the blue box recorder, you have two definitions. One is someone or something that records. And then the second definition is a wooden flute with 8 finger holes and a whistle like mouthpiece. So, obviously, from the context of our sentence, we blew into our recorder softly. We know that we're referring to the second definition for recorder. Um, and we're not talking about the first one. Now, as many of you know, I used to work in a law office, and so I used to use the word recorder all the time, but not referring to an instrument. I actually would go to the recorder of deeds, and that's where people would file the deeds for their houses. And so, therefore, if I said I went to the recorder of deeds today, I would be referring to the first definition of someone or something that records. If somebody said a sentence like, speak into the recorder so your voice can be understood, you again would know that I was talking about definition number one. Let's look at homographs. Some words have homographs or words that are spelled the same way but have different meanings. So, homographs are two separate entries in the dictionary because they are different words. They are marked with a small number at the end of the word. So the example they give you is lock. And lock has the little number 1 beside it, and the definition is: first, it can be used as a noun, and that is a fastener worked by a key or a combination that holds something shut. Also, it can be a part of a canal closed off with gates. And then you have the number 2, which is also a noun, and that is lock, and that means a curl of hair, a ringlet. I believe that if you actually looked at the word lock at dictionary.com, there would be a lot more definitions that go with it because it can be a verb. And so I think if you went into dictionary.com and actually put in the word LOCK, you might find that there's more than one definition that goes into it. However, the definition number 1 refers to the noun where something is secure, whether it's the lock on a locker. Maybe some of your parents have like a lock on a shed, which is that, small heavy metal, circular, if it has a dial, a combination, or maybe a square if it has a key in the bottom of it, lock that goes on the door. Or it also can refer to, in a canal, there's a part where they can shut off the canal and secure something inside the lock. So basically it locks the doors of the canal in a section of it, and the boat can't go through. And then you have the second meaning, which is a homograph, and that is a lock of hair. Let's just look at the guided practice. I'll go through it with you, and then what I'm going to have you do for tonight is go and do the independent practice on page 124. If mom and dad will either scan in or take a picture of your completed page, you can upload it to this assignment. And tomorrow we will have a Zoom class because we'll be going over encyclopedias. Excuse me. And I, of course, and I also want to get to see all of you. So let's look at the guided practice. Number 1, in section 1, you have 2 different definitions. One is account, and the other one is company. And based on the sentences they give you, will determine whether or not which definition of that word it's referring to. And you're supposed to write the number of the definition that fits the word in the blank. So we enjoyed the account of his trip to Egypt. So if we look over at the blue box, it says account is a written or spoken description. Number 2, a set of reasons or explanation. Number 3, a record of business and money spent or received. Number 4, importance, value, or worth. So if we look at that, it says we enjoyed the account of his trip to Egypt. Well, we know it's not a record of business or money spent, and we know it's not referring to importance, value, or worth. So now we're looking at number 1 and 2, a written or spoken description and a set of reasons or explanation. Well, it doesn't say we enjoyed the account for his trip to Egypt, which that would be a list of reasons why he went to Egypt. So our answer should be number 1, a written or spoken description. So we enjoyed the account of his trip to Egypt, and the answer is number 1. Number 2, he considered sports to be of no account. So again, looking back at our description definitions for account. I'm not going to read through them, but we see that number 4 is importance, value, or worth. So we could substitute any one of those words in there. He considered sports to be of no importance. He considered sports to be of no value. So we know that the answer for number 2 is definition number 4. Number 3, the company hired several more employees. So now this goes down to our second definition. A company, a guest or guests is definition number 1. Number 2, companionship or fellowship, and definition number 3, a business, a firm. Well, a company hired several more employees. We're not talking about guests or fellowship, but we are talking about a business, so the answer is number 3. And then we go to number 4. We are having company tonight, which means guest or guests, so number 1 would be our answer. And number 5, the new boy looked as if he needed company, which definition number 2 would fit here, meaning that the boy was looking for fellowship or companionship. All right, now let's look down at the second section, and this time we're talking about homographs, and you have shed, to take off, remove, or let fall, and that's a verb. And then you have shed number 2, a small simple building for storage or shelter. Then you have well, which is a noun, a deep hole dug in or drilled into the ground. And then you have definition number 2, well, as in feeling good in a proper way or correctly. So let's look at our sentences here. Number 1, I watched a snake shed his skin. Which homograph will we use here? Are we talking about a small shelter or to take off, remove, or let fall? And the answer is number 1, the snake would take off his old skin. Number 7, I put the wood in the shed. We would be talking about the shelter or storage, so that would be definition number 2. Number 8, the tree shed its leaves, again, to take off or let fall, so the answer is number 1. Now number 9 goes to the second homographs. She plays the harp well, so talking about good or proper or correctly, so that is definition number 2. Number 10, he ran well, though he did not win. That also is talking about proper way, correctly, or in good form, so that's definition number 2. And number 11, be careful not to fall in the old well, and that would be the hole in the ground for collecting of water, and that's number 1. And for the last one, we have write the letter of the sentence in which the underlined homograph means the same as it does in the given sentence. The duck opened its bill and quacked loudly. So then you have, I gave him $3 bills for food. Did you pay the water bill? Or the goose caught the bread in its bill. So you see that both are talking about birds. So letter C would be your correct choice here. Number 13, I can bring chips to the party, which means ability. And then you have A, she saw a can lying beside the road, which is the container, the metal container for food. Letter B, he added 1.5 cans of water to the soup, which again is referring to the same thing in letter A. And then letter C, I will run as fast as I can, which is talking about ability. So the answer for 13 would be C. So I hope you guys if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section. I will be around all day, so I will get back to you as soon as I see it pop up on my screen. But go ahead and tackle page 124 for me, and I will see you tomorrow. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.